Hello, I'm the host of Wild Podcast. My name is Darshawn McAway. If you typically listen to this podcast on audio only platforms, well, rest assured there's a link in the description that takes you to the video format of this podcast interview. Now, let's get on with our special guest. Let's get right into it. Listen, a lot of times what gives me the accreditation, if you will, and the representation. Hello, I'm the host of Wild Podcast. My name is Darshawn McAway. And it's going down like this.
Big Red helps me around the house. My dream car happens to be a 13 Tundra. What's yours?
Anything else you got to say? Any words of maybe encouragement or words of hope? Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Darshawn McAway. You're tuned in to wildpodcast.me. That's WOWPODCAST.me. And today we have a special guest. We have Jennifer Shaw. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So let's talk about your latest book coming up called The Fractured Veil. What is that about?
Yeah, so I've written a series. It's the third book in my series. Magic fantasy, action adventure, some supernatural and suspense elements kind of sprinkled in just for good measure. Very ADHD, so I get bored really easily. But my my third book just sort of follows in the series of my protagonists. So there's our world, our time, and a coexisting magical realm. There's a veil that separates us. And we can't see or cross this veil. We don't have magic, but those creatures from this realm that do can and have, and they've been the source of inspiration for our mythologies. My main character, Callum Walker, is a young man born with the ability to use magic, and he's trying to figure it out and make the most of it. And he gets embroiled in the magical realm, and we follow him through the series trying to figure out who he is, where he fits in, because he's too magic for here, but too human for there, and then master his abilities to survive this world that's very much over his head.
That was by far the best description I've ever heard anybody do for their book in a very long time.
Oh,
So,
well, I've practiced.
so let me ask you this. It may seem like a typical question to many, but with a book of this caliber, how long does it take you to process it?
Writing the rough drafts takes me anywhere from 2 to 3 months, but editing takes at least 3 times that long.
Okay. And why did you get started writing?
I started writing about 32 years ago. I needed an outlet,
Okay.
and my mom had bought me a typewriter. I'm dating myself, but my mom had bought me a typewriter, and I started to write out as a creative point. It became a hobby, then it turned into kind of a passion, and now it's just cheaper than therapy.
I hear you. So let's talk about your other book, Ascension. Let's talk about that one as well.
Yeah, so Ascension was the first one in my series. The second one being the Convergence. So the Ascension came out in 2021, and I wrote it actually quite a few years earlier than that.
Okay.
And it's sort of the beginning of this journey with my character and introducing this world. I've tried to go back to the original mythologies whenever I've created my magical creatures and stuff wherever I could.
So your main character, where did you pull him from out of your imagination? Like, where did that character come from?
A little bit of elements of like the Odd Thomas from Dean Koontz, the Odd Thomas series. I've drawn some inspiration from the Merlin tales. I've also a big fan of the Supernatural TV series and Game of Thrones as well. Kind
Now
of
your
bits and pieces of inspiration.
right. Now your book, is it The Convergence or just Convergence?
It's Callum Walker and the Convergence.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
Convergence is the title of it. It's a Callum Walker series. Yeah.
I'm curious about this one. Can you tell me a little bit about this one?
So this one was kind of this one I actually wrote because I was on a roll. I wrote the rough draft for this one in about 2.5 weeks. And it's kind of it's more of a big epic, good versus evil, light versus dark. And my poor character gets drawn into the middle of it, even though they would just rather kind of lay low and have a normal life. And that's just not a possibility.
Right. So I'm kind of curious because you seem like you really do have everything put together. I want to know a little bit of your writing process and when you put stories like this together. Can you just walk me through a little bit of it? Like, how do you get started?
So I don't actually do a lot of planning.
Okay.
I know approximately where to begin, I know where to end, and I know what needs to happen in the middle. But I like to have that creative freedom to kind of just sort of let my mind go. And there's times where I get into the zone and I'm writing and I don't know where I'm going to end up, and I'm just feel like I'm along for the ride. And sometimes my creative juices get flowing, and it takes me to places I'm like, wow, that was great. I didn't know, I didn't even think about that. Where at other times I have to stop and question my sanity. But if I get really stuck on something, I just put my headphones on, go for a walk, and just let a video play out in my head.
Right. Now, have you ever tinkered with the idea of turning your books into any sort of movie?
I haven't tinkered with it, but when I'm writing it, I see it as a movie in my head anyway. And I've had a lot of people tell me about that, but I don't know much about the process. So it would take a long time to try to figure that one out. I mean, I've had enough people asking about having my books put on audiobooks. So I'm kind of in the process of trying to figure that one out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The audiobook thing is, I'm kind of curious about that myself. I tinkered with it a little bit, and it seems as if you have to like do certain sections as a
Mhm.
chapter for the audio version, but like per paragraph. It was something kind of difficult. That's why I
Mhm.
didn't do it as of yet. But no, I typically like to ask some of the authors that come on, have they ever thought about turning their books into a movie?
Mhm.
Because many of you have some like really great stories.
Yeah.
Just a synopsis within itself, it sounds fantastic. But
Mhm.
your books with the cover and basically how you laid everything out sounds like it would make for like a good TV series or some type of movie series.
Well, if somebody ever approached me to have it converted into a movie, I'd say, "Hey, go for it," I mean,
Right.
I don't have to pay for the special effects in my head, but
Right. So when you're not writing, and trying to step away from it a little bit, like what are you doing your off time?
I'm a mom. I have 2 very busy little boys, 8 and 10, and, I love playing the piano, going for hikes. I'm into martial arts, the occasional airsoft. Not I'm not into typical, like, I don't do a lot of reading. I'm trying to get back into reading, but I like to be active.
Right.
I'm very bored.
Right. I find that most of us who write books, we typically don't read. Not that we don't read a lot, but we typically don't read other people's materials because it seems like it'll seep into your writing, so to speak.
I think there's always that fear. I also write in present tense, so a
Hmm.
lot of books out there are written in past tense, and I'm kind of leery that, one, I might start to, the line between my creative muse and what I'm reading, like, might be blurred, but also that I might start writing in past tense, which I don't wanna do.
Right. Right. So you have some book signings coming up. You have a
Yes.
book signing tomorrow. Well, this weekend. So you're
Yes,
on a
this
full
weekend.
promo right now.
Yep,
Yeah.
I'm wrapping it up. I've got this weekend, and then I've got one in a couple weeks, in Calgary area, and, they're all listed on my events page on my website,
Right.
and then I'm gonna be done for the end of the year.
I hear you. Very, very proud of you. Continue to keep on doing your thing. This is what it's all about. Showing everybody like what it takes to get your book out there. A lot of people
Mhm.
think that when they write the book, that people are just going to gravitate towards it, but you have to get on platforms. You have to talk to
Yes.
people. You have
Yeah.
to basically push it out there just to see
Exactly.
uh,
Well,
how
and these
everybody.
you think about the millions and millions of other books out there. You could have the best written book in the world, and I'm not saying mine are, but, if nobody knows it exists, nobody's gonna ever see it.
Right.
So you have to figure out
Exactly.
how to tell the world you exist, and that's what I challenged myself this year. I was gonna do 30 book signings, and I'm sitting at around, I think, 35, 36.
Okay.
So
That's good. That's good. Now, are you sitting down with like a PR team, a marketing team? Like, tell
I
some of the
hired a
people who are aspiring.
publicist this
Okay.
year,
Okay.
but I've been just figuring it out all on my own.
Got you. And how is the
Yeah.
publicist working for you?
Oh, it's pretty good. They've been keeping me busy.
Yeah, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Jennifer Shaw, also known as J.M. Shaw, and she's going to be talking to us for a little bit more. Um, so, your book signings are coming up. What else after that? Like after your year is over with, what are you going to do? You're pressing for retirement. What you going to do?
No, no, I've been writing for 32 years. I'm not gonna stop anytime soon. My 4th book is, slated to be coming out, early next year,
Okay.
and I'm starting work on my 5th book, plus I've also kind of, like, dabbled in doing a standalone book, in
Okay.
a fantasy genre, but different, from apart from this series.
Got you. Are you doing any social media? Are you on like any of the popular social
Yeah,
media?
I have Instagram. I'm on Facebook. The links can be found on my website, www.jmshawauthor. And at the bottom of my website, you can find my links to my Instagram and Facebook. I've also got an email. You can subscribe to my newsletter. I don't send a bunch of newsletters. I just send out if something important's happening, like a new book being released.
Right, right. Well, this is fantastic. I want to thank you so much for coming by the podcast and to share your material. We always want to encourage everyone to go check it out. So you guys go to jmshawauthor.com and check her out.
Yes.
Jennifer, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you, and I wish you the most success in the world.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be on here as well.
Thank you.